She texted, "He broke my leg to the wrong number." 3 words sent in panic from a cold kitchen floor in Chicago while the man she had tried to escape searched the apartment for her phone. Claire Bennett expected her sister to answer. Instead, a stranger replied, "Who is he?" Then another message, "Send me your address." Claire had no idea the number belonged to Dominic Vale, a man whose name made powerful men lower their voices. She only knew her boyfriend was coming back down the hallway. Her leg was broken and she had seconds left to decide whether trusting a stranger was more dangerous than staying silent. What happened next would change everything she believed about fear, power, loyalty, and the price of being saved. Stay with this story to the end. And before we begin, like the video and tell me in the comments what city or country you're watching from. Claire had no idea the number belonged to Dominic Vale. Less than a day earlier, the most dangerous thing in her life had still been the man waiting for her at home. At 8:12 that morning, Claire Bennett sat beneath fluorescent lights in a freight brokerage office on the southwest side of Chicago, staring at a shipment invoice that should have taken 10 seconds to approve. She read it 3 times. Outside the glass wall beside her desk, trucks crawled through the loading yard under a gray February sky. Tires hissed over wet pavement. Forklifts beeped between trailers. Somewhere near the warehouse doors, a man shouted for someone named Tony to move a pallet before lunch. Normal sounds. Claire had learned to love normal sounds. Normal sounds meant no doors slamming, no glass breaking, no one asking why she had taken 12 minutes to answer a text. Her computer screen showed an invoice for a refrigerated shipment from Indianapolis. The total was wrong. Not obviously wrong. That was the problem. Claire leaned closer. Fuel surcharge, detention fee, overnight storage, accessorial handling. Then she saw it. The storage charge had been entered twice under 2 different codes. She clicked through the original paperwork and confirmed it. $8,400, double billed. Most people in the office would have approved it. Claire did not. She never trusted a number simply because it looked clean. A shadow appeared beside her desk. "You find something." Claire looked up. Jason Miller from Accounts Payable stood there holding a paper cup of coffee and wearing the exhausted expression of a man who had already lost an argument with his morning. Claire pointed at the screen. "Duplicate storage fee." Jason bent down. "We're here. I only see 1. That code means the same thing." She scrolled lower. "And there is another charge under refrigeration hold." Jason stared for a moment, then whistled. $8,000, 8-4. He looked at her. "You scare me sometimes." Claire smiled faintly. "I hear that a lot." "No, seriously, you look at numbers like they insulted your mother. They usually insult someone." Jason laughed. "You should be running this place." Claire looked back at the monitor. "Please do not curse me like that." His laugh followed him toward the printer. For a few seconds, Claire allowed herself to relax. Then her phone vibrated against the desk. Her shoulders tightened before she even saw the screen. "Ethan, where are you?" Claire stared at the message. It was 8:16 in the morning. He knew where she was. He had watched her leave the apartment 40 minutes earlier. Her thumbs moved carefully. At work. The reply came almost immediately. "Send me a picture." Claire closed her eyes. She could feel the familiar pressure gathering behind her ribs. Not fear, exactly. Fear was too simple. It was calculation. How fast should she answer? Would answering too fast look nervous? Would waiting make him angry? Should she include Jason in the photograph? No, definitely not. Ethan hated Jason because Jason had once held an elevator door for Claire. Claire opened her camera and aimed it toward her computer, making sure the office clock on the wall appeared in the background. She sent the picture. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Who is sitting across from you?" Claire looked up. Empty desk. "No one," she typed. "Nobody." Another pause. "Love you." There had been a time when those 2 words made her smile. Now they felt like a receipt, proof that every demand had been wrapped in something soft. She typed, "Love you too." Then she placed the phone face down. Her hands were cold. At noon, Claire took her lunch outside. Chicago wind pushed under her coat as she walked toward a bench near the employee parking lot. The sky was the color of dirty steel. She had half a turkey sandwich in one hand when her phone began to ring. "Rachel." Claire let it ring. It stopped. Started again. She watched her sister's name light the screen. Rachel Bennett, older sister, 32, nurse, professional worrier, the one person Ethan had never managed to convince Claire to hate completely. Claire answered. "Hey." Rachel did not bother with hello. "You vanished again." "I did not vanish. I texted you 3 times yesterday. I was busy." With him, Claire looked toward the building. "Rachel. What, I have 20 minutes for lunch, so do I. I am sitting in my car eating crackers from a vending machine because apparently healthcare is glamorous." Claire almost smiled. Rachel heard it. "There she is. Who, my sister?" Claire's smile disappeared. Rachel's voice softened. "I miss you. I am right here." "No, you answer the phone sometimes. That is different." Claire stared at the wet pavement beneath her shoes. A delivery truck turned into the yard. Its brakes squealed. Rachel said, "Did he do something?" "No." The answer came too fast. Rachel went quiet. Claire hated Rachel's silences because they were never empty. Rachel knew when to wait. Ethan filled silence until Claire surrendered. Rachel let silence exist until Claire heard herself. Finally, Rachel asked, "Are you safe?" Claire looked at the bruise hidden beneath the sleeve of her coat. It was yellow now, almost gone. Ethan had grabbed her arm 3 nights earlier because she had turned away while he was speaking. He apologized afterward. He always apologized when the evidence began to change color. "I am fine." Rachel exhaled slowly. "You always say that when you are not." Claire's throat tightened. "Can we not do this today when, Claire, I have to go? Claire, I love you. Then let me help you." Claire ended the call. For several seconds, she stood beside the bench staring at Rachel's name on the screen. Then she deleted the call from her recent history. She had started doing that 6 months ago, not because Ethan checked every night, only because sometimes he did. That afternoon, Claire made a decision. It did not arrive dramatically. There was no music, no sudden courage, no moment when she looked at herself in a mirror and became someone new. She simply sat at her desk, opened a browser during a quiet moment, and created a savings account at a bank Ethan did not use. The balance was $2,430. Money gathered in pieces. $20 after groceries, $50 from a holiday bonus, $100 from selling an old camera Ethan thought she had lost. It was not enough to rebuild a life. It was enough for a deposit, enough for gas, enough for a motel room if she needed one. Claire stared at the number. 243018. Her money, her name. No shared access. No permission required. Her pulse quickened. She logged out and cleared the browser history. At 5:37, Ethan texted, "Bring wine." Claire stopped at a grocery store on the way home. She chose the red bottle he liked because buying the wrong one had become a problem once. When she entered the apartment, music was playing from the kitchen. Ethan stood over the stove. He turned and smiled. There were evenings when Claire hated him most for looking normal. He was handsome. That was part of what confused people. Dark blonde hair, clean jaw, easy smile. He remembered birthdays. He tipped waitresses. He once drove 40 minutes through a snowstorm to bring Rachel medicine when she had the flu. Violence did not live on his face. It lived in moments nobody else saw. "You got it." Claire held up the wine. "Cabernet, my girl." He kissed her forehead. Her body remained still until he pulled away. Dinner was pasta from a jar and garlic bread burned around the edges. Ethan poured wine. He talked about a supervisor at work who did not respect him. Claire nodded where she was supposed to. Then he asked casually, "Who called you at lunch?" Her fork stopped. Rachel. Why she wanted to talk. About what? Nothing. Ethan smiled. Not warmly. Nothing. "She misses me. She sees you. Not much. That is her choice." Claire looked at her plate. Ethan leaned back. "You know she hates me. She does not hate you." He laughed once. "Claire. She worries. About what Claire could feel the trap. If she said nothing, he would call it disrespect. If she told the truth, he would call it betrayal. She worries about everything. Did you tell her anything about us? No. Look at me." Claire looked up. Ethan's face was calm. That made it worse. "Did you tell her about the other night?" No, his shoulders relaxed. He reached across the table and covered her hand with his. "I hate when we get like this." Claire said nothing. "I love you, I know." His fingers tightened slightly. "You know I would never hurt you on purpose." The bruise on Claire's arm pulsed as though her body objected. She forced a small smile. "I know." Ethan released her hand. Good. A few minutes later he was joking about something on television. By 10:30 he was asleep on the couch. Claire stood in the bathroom with the door closed, staring at herself in the mirror. She lifted her sleeve. The bruise looked uglier beneath white bathroom light. She touched it. Then she whispered very quietly, "Friday." The woman in the mirror looked frightened. Claire repeated it. Friday. Over the next 7 days she prepared in fragments. A spare blouse disappeared from her closet and reappeared in a drawer at work. A pair of jeans followed. Then underwear, medication, a toothbrush. Photocopies of her driver's license, social security card, and insurance information. She withdrew $40 in cash each time she bought groceries and folded the bills into an envelope beneath the spare tire in her car. She did not pack everything. People noticed when you packed everything. She packed enough. Each small act terrified her more than the one before it. On Wednesday afternoon, Rachel texted, "Coffee this weekend?" Claire stared at the message. She typed maybe, deleted it, typed again. Friday, 6 p.m. Can you come get me? Her finger hovered over send, then she pressed it. Rachel replied in less than a minute. Yes. No questions, no lecture, just yes. Claire almost cried at her desk. She deleted the conversation. Friday arrived with freezing rain. All day Claire watched the clock. 2:14, 3:03, 4:21. At 4:46, Jason dropped a folder on her desk. Monday problem. Claire looked at it. Definitely Monday. You have plans, Claire put on her coat. Yes. It felt strange saying it. She did have plans. For the first time in years, those plans did not include Ethan. At 5:09, Claire pulled into the alley behind the apartment building. Ethan's car was gone. Good. He worked until 6. Rachel would arrive at 6. Claire needed 15 minutes. She climbed the stairs, unlocked the door. The apartment was silent. Her duffel bag was hidden behind 2 winter coats in the bedroom closet. She pulled it out. 2 shirts, jeans, documents, medication, cash, an old photograph of her and Rachel at Lake Michigan when Claire was 17. She added her laptop charger, then stopped. Too much. Leave. Her heart beat hard. 5:23. Claire carried the bag toward the front door. She could already imagine cold air hitting her face. Rachel's car at the curb, the passenger door opening. No explanation until they were miles away. Claire reached for the lock. A key scraped against the other side. She froze. The door opened. Ethan stood there. Wet hair, black jacket, confusion on his face. Then his eyes dropped to the duffel bag. For 1 second, neither of them moved. Ethan stepped inside. "What's that?" Claire's mouth went dry. He closed the door behind him. "I asked you a question." She gripped the strap. "I am leaving." The words barely sounded like her voice. Ethan stared at her, then laughed. Not because anything was funny. "No, you're not." Claire took 1 step backward. "Yes." His smile disappeared. "Where that does not matter." With Rachel, Claire said nothing. He looked at the bag again. "You planned this. I need some space. Space. Ethan, please." He walked closer. Claire backed toward the kitchen. "You have been lying to me. I was afraid. Of me?" He looked offended. Actually, offended. Claire felt something break inside her that had nothing to do with bone. "Yes." Ethan stopped. His eyes changed. "You think I am some kind of monster?" Claire's fingers tightened around the bag. "I think I need to leave." He grabbed the strap. Claire held on. "Let go." "No, Claire, no." He pulled. She stumbled. The duffel hit the floor. Clothes spilled across the hallway. A toothbrush skidded beneath the table. Ethan looked down at the documents. The cash envelope. Her packed medication. The truth of the plan spread across the floor between them. His face went pale. "You were going to disappear. I was going to Rachel's. Without telling me. I am telling you now." He laughed again, sharper this time. "You think that makes it better?" Claire moved toward the door. Ethan caught her wrist. "Let me go. We are talking. You are hurting me. You are making me hurt you." Claire went still. The sentence landed differently this time. Maybe because Rachel's voice was still somewhere in her head. "You always say that when you are not." Claire looked at Ethan's hand around her wrist, then at his face. "No." Ethan frowned. "What no?" She pulled away. For the first time, she did not soften the word, did not apologize for it, did not explain. No. Ethan shoved her. Claire hit the wall. Pain flashed through her shoulder. She pushed him back. That surprised both of them. His expression turned blank, then furious. The argument exploded. Words, accusations, a lamp knocked sideways. Claire moved toward the kitchen because the back door was there. Ethan caught her from behind. She twisted, his foot hooked against hers. She fell badly, her right leg trapped beneath her. Ethan stumbled into her. There was a sound Claire would remember more clearly than his shouting. A hard, wet crack, then white light. Claire screamed. The world disappeared for several seconds. When it returned, she was on the kitchen floor. Her leg looked wrong. Ethan stood above her, breathing hard. For the first time, his anger vanished. Claire. She could not answer. Oh, God. He crouched. She recoiled. Don't touch me. I did not mean to. Don't touch me. I did not mean to. He kept saying it, as though repetition might push the bone back into place. Claire began to shake. Ethan stood. He paced once, twice. Then he looked at the duffel bag. Something shifted in his face. Fear became anger again. This is because you tried to leave. Claire stared at him. Ethan moved toward the bedroom. I need to think. He disappeared down the hallway. A drawer slammed, then another. Claire lay very still. Her phone was beneath the kitchen table, maybe 6 feet away. It might as well have been across Lake Michigan. She dragged herself forward, 1 inch. Pain ripped through her leg. She stopped breathing. Then another inch. Her fingers reached the phone. 6% battery. The screen was cracked. She opened the message app. Rachel. Her hand shook so badly she closed the conversation by accident. Claire tried again. Instead of searching the contact, she entered the number from memory. 312, then the rest. 1 digit wrong. She did not notice. From the bedroom, Ethan shouted, "Who were you planning to stay with?" Claire typed with trembling thumbs. He broke my leg. She pressed send. I tried to leave. Send. Please don't call. He'll hear it. Send. Across Chicago, in the private dining room of a closed Italian restaurant, Dominic Vale was staring at a different kind of debt. A nervous man sat across from him. $400,000 was written in a black ledger between them. Dominic tapped the number once. You borrowed it 6 months ago. I know. You promised repayment in 3. I just need another week. Dominic's voice remained calm. Time does not erase a balance. The man's eyes dropped. Dominic leaned back. Money, loyalty, blood. Everything leaves a number somewhere. Mason Reed stood near the door checking his phone. South Yard is handled. Dominic nodded. Then the phone beside his hand vibrated, his personal phone, a number almost nobody possessed. He glanced down. He broke my leg. Dominic's expression changed. A second message appeared. I tried to leave. Then a third. Please don't call. He'll hear it. Mason noticed Dominic had stopped listening to the man across the table. What is it? Dominic looked at the unknown number. His thumb moved across the screen. Who is he? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. A reply finally came. Wrong number. Sorry. Dominic stared at those words for a moment. Then he typed again. You said he broke your leg. That stopped being a wrong number problem. He stood. The debtor across the table looked confused. Mr. Vale. Dominic closed the ledger. Mason. Mason straightened. Dominic looked at the next message appearing on his screen. Yes, he is still inside. His face went completely still. Get the car. Mason did not ask why. That was one of the reasons Dominic Vale had kept him alive and close for 16 years. He simply reached for his coat and moved. The man who owed Dominic $400,000 was still sitting at the table, pale and confused. Mr. Vale about the money. Dominic picked up his phone. Tomorrow. The man blinked. You are giving me another day. Dominic looked at him. No, I am giving myself something more important to do. Then he walked out. Rain struck the windows of the black SUV as it cut through Chicago. Dominic sat in the back seat staring at the unknown number. Mason drove. 2 security vehicles followed behind them. The message thread remained open. Dominic typed. Can you lock a door between you and him? A reply appeared. No. His jaw tightened. Give me his name. The answer came slowly. Ethan Cole. Your address. Nothing. Dominic watched the screen. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Mason glanced at him through the mirror. She's still answering. Not yet. You know, this could be bait, yes. Someone gets your private number, sends a distress message, pulls you into an apartment with no advance sweep. Dominic looked out at the wet streets. Then we will find out. Mason sighed. You always this reasonable when walking into possible ambushes? No. The phone vibrated. An address appeared. Mason saw Dominic sit forward, where Dominic read it aloud. Mason entered the location into navigation. 12 minutes. Dominic typed again. Stay conscious, Claire. I'm close. The screen remained silent. He hated that silence. Not because he knew Claire. He did not. Not because she belonged to him. She did not. He hated silence after a plea for help. He had hated it for 17 years. Dominic locked the phone and looked out at the city lights passing beyond the glass. Mason studied him again. You know her, no. Then why does this feel personal? Dominic said nothing. Mason did not ask twice. When the convoy turned onto Claire's street, one window on the 3rd floor was lit. A man stood behind the curtain. Dominic saw him. The man saw Dominic. The curtain moved shut. Mason parked at the curb. 3 entrances. Front stairwell, rear fire escape alley door. Dominic stepped out into the rain. You take the front with me. Mason looked at the building, and the others cover exits. Dominic crossed the sidewalk. No hurry, no wasted movement. By the time he reached the apartment door, he already knew Ethan had not called the police. A frightened innocent man might. A guilty man usually tried to control the room first. Dominic knocked 3 times. Nothing. He knocked again. Ethan Cole. Movement inside. Dominic could hear breathing close to the door. Open it. A voice shouted back. Get the hell out of here. Dominic checked his watch. You have 10 seconds before the door stops being your decision. Mason looked at him. You giving him 10-6. At 6, Mason broke the lock. The door flew inward. Everything happened quickly. Ethan appeared with a kitchen knife. Mason struck his wrist. The knife hit the floor. One of Dominic's men drove Ethan against the wall. Dominic barely looked at him. His attention had already moved to the kitchen. A woman lay beside the cabinets. Small, barefoot, blood at the corner of her mouth, one side of her face swelling. Her right leg twisted beneath her. Dominic stopped. Something cold moved through his chest. Not surprise, recognition. He knew that kind of room. The broken object on the floor, the bag near the doorway, the clothes spilled out, a woman who had been leaving, a man who had decided leaving was an insult. Dominic walked toward her. Ethan shouted from behind him. She fell. Dominic continued walking. She was acting crazy. Dominic crouched beside Claire. Her eyes struggled to focus. Claire. She looked at him. You texted me. Her lips moved. I meant to text my sister, I know. Who are you? Dominic looked at the bruise forming along her throat. The person who answered, her eyes closed. Dominic turned. Call Ross. Mason already had his phone out. Ethan twisted against the man holding him. You can't just come into my house. Dominic stood. For the first time, he looked directly at Ethan. You did that to her. Ethan glanced at Claire. She fell. Dominic stepped closer. Ethan's confidence weakened. I said she fell. Dominic looked at the blood on Ethan's knuckles, then at Claire, then back at him. Interesting. What people who tell the truth rarely need the same sentence twice. Ethan swallowed. You have no idea what happened. Dominic's voice remained calm. I know she packed a bag. Ethan's face changed. I know she tried to leave. Dominic pointed toward the kitchen floor. And I know where she ended up. Ethan looked toward Claire. She made me angry. Mason went still. Dominic did not. That frightened Ethan more. Dominic stepped close enough that Ethan had to lift his chin to meet his eyes. Say that again. Ethan hesitated. Dominic waited. Ethan looked away. Dominic said, good choice. Sirens did not come. Instead, 6 minutes later, a dark medical transport van pulled into the alley. Dr. Amelia Ross entered carrying a trauma bag. She was 45, sharp-eyed, and entirely unimpressed by the men surrounding her. She took one look at Claire. Everyone back. Dominic moved. Amelia knelt. Claire, can you hear me? Claire opened her eyes. Yes, I am Dr. Ross. I need to examine your leg. Claire nodded once. Amelia touched carefully around the injury. Claire screamed. Dominic's hand closed into a fist. Amelia looked up. If you're going to react to every sound she makes, leave the room. Dominic released his hand. I am fine. I was not asking about you. Mason almost smiled. Amelia continued the examination. Possible tibial fracture, maybe fibula too, significant displacement. I want imaging immediately. Claire's breathing became shallow. Hospital. Amelia glanced at Dominic. Private surgical center. Claire looked toward him. No. Dominic crouched again. What, no hospitals you own? No police you own? I don't know you. Fair. Claire stared at him, surprised by the answer. Dominic continued. You can go to Northwestern, Rush, Cook County, name one. Claire's eyes filled with fear. Ethan will find me. Behind them, Ethan said, Claire, come on, tell them this is insane. Dominic looked over his shoulder. Claire flinched at Ethan's voice. That answered the question. Dominic turned back. He will not find you tonight. Claire studied his face. Did you kill him? No. Are you going to? Dominic paused. Do you want me to? Claire's expression changed. Horror. No. Dominic nodded. Then I will not. Ethan stared at him. Mason stared too. Claire seemed unsure whether that answer should comfort her. Amelia interrupted. We need to move her now. Claire reached for Dominic's sleeve before he could stand. Her fingers were weak. Do not let him come with me. Dominic looked at Ethan. He will not. The medical team lifted Claire onto a stretcher. Her scream echoed through the apartment. She bit down on a folded towel. Tears ran into her hair. Dominic walked beside the stretcher until they reached the stairs. Amelia stopped him. You are not riding with us. Dominic looked at her. Why? Because I need space to work and because she does not know you. Dominic glanced at Claire. Her eyes were half closed. He nodded. Call me the moment you know. Amelia gave him a flat look. I call patients families. I am the reason she has a surgeon tonight. You are also the reason I charge triple. Dominic almost smiled. Then call me. The stretcher disappeared down the stairs. Only after the van left did Dominic return to the apartment. Ethan was sitting in a chair. Mason stood behind him. His wrists had been secured. Ethan looked angry again now that Claire was gone. You think she is going to thank you? Dominic removed his coat. I did not come for gratitude. She loves me. Dominic placed the wet coat over the back of another chair. Maybe. Ethan laughed. You do not know anything about us. No. Dominic sat across from him. But I know what she looked like when she heard your voice. Ethan's smile disappeared. Dominic leaned forward. You are going to listen carefully. Ethan stared. You will not call Claire. Silence. You will not contact her sister. Ethan shifted. You will not go to her job. I have rights. Dominic's expression did not change. You had a woman bleeding on your kitchen floor. Ethan swallowed. Dominic continued. If the police become involved, you tell them the truth. And if I don't, Dominic looked toward Mason. Mason set a phone on the table. The screen showed photographs, the apartment, Claire's injuries, the packed bag, the blood. Dominic said, Then I make sure every person you have ever lied to sees what truth looks like. Ethan's face lost color. Dominic stood. And if you go near her again, we will have a different conversation. You said you would not kill me. Dominic stopped at the doorway. She asked me not to. He looked back. Do not make her regret being merciful. Claire woke to silence. Not apartment silence, different silence, clean silence, expensive silence. Her eyes opened slowly. White ceiling, soft light. A machine beside her bed recorded each heartbeat. Her right leg felt impossibly heavy. She tried to move. Pain rolled through her body. Claire gasped. A woman in blue scrubs appeared. Easy. Claire looked around. Where am I? You are safe. That is not a place. The nurse smiled slightly. Lake Forest. Claire stared at her. What Hospital A private medical suite? Claire's stomach tightened. Dominic. The nurse hesitated. Claire noticed. Where is he downstairs? Where is my phone on the table? Claire turned her head. Her phone was there. Charging. No one had hidden it. She reached for it. 17 missed calls from Rachel. 24 messages. Claire's chest tightened. She pressed call. Rachel answered before the first ring finished. Claire. Her voice broke. Claire closed her eyes. I'm here. Where are you? I'm safe. You disappeared. I went to the apartment. There were men there. There was blood. I know. What happened? Claire looked at her leg. I tried to leave. Rachel stopped breathing for a second. He hurt you? Yes. How bad my leg is broken. Rachel began crying. Claire stared at the ceiling. I'm okay. Do not say that. Claire swallowed. Rachel continued. Tell me where you are. I am coming. Claire looked toward the glass wall beside the room. A man stood beyond it. Dominic. He did not enter. He simply waited. Claire said, I'm in Lake Forest. With who Claire watched Dominic. I don't know how to explain it. Try. Claire almost laughed. He was the wrong number. Rachel went silent. What I texted you, except I didn't. Claire looked down at the phone. I typed one digit wrong. And who answered? Claire met Dominic's eyes through the glass. A man named Dominic Vale. Rachel inhaled sharply. Claire heard it. What Rachel's voice dropped. Claire, do you know who that is? No, search his name. Claire looked at Dominic again. He could not hear Rachel, but he seemed to know exactly what she was saying. Claire whispered, I don't think I want to. Rachel's answer was immediate. I am coming. Claire looked toward Dominic. He opened the door. Claire said to Rachel, give me an hour. Claire, 1 hour, I promise. She ended the call. Dominic remained near the doorway. He did not approach the bed. You can invite her here. Claire studied him. You would let her come, yes. And then what? She sees you. She leaves. She stays. She calls the police. Her decision. Claire frowned. You keep saying things like that. Like what decision? Choice. Dominic pulled a chair closer but stopped several feet from the bed. You notice words. I work with invoices. That is not the same thing. It is if people are trying to hide something. For the first time, a trace of amusement touched his face, then disappeared. Claire looked at her leg. What happened? 2 fractures. Surgery went well. She swallowed. How long, doctor? Ross says months before full recovery. Claire stared at the blanket. My job. We can deal with it. Dominic leaned back. Claire looked at him. You broke into my apartment. Yes. You kidnapped my boyfriend. No. You had armed men take him somewhere. Yes. That sounds very close to kidnapping. He remained in the apartment. Claire blinked. You left him there with instructions. What kind? Dominic's face revealed nothing. The kind people remember. Claire did not know whether to be afraid or relieved. She settled on both. Then she noticed a folder on the table beside him. What is that? Dominic looked at it. Your expenses. Claire stared. My what? He placed the folder on the bed. Claire opened it. Private ambulance, surgery, anesthesia, medical equipment, security, physical therapy, temporary accommodation. Numbers ran down the page. Claire reached the total. Her mouth went dry. This is more than I make in 4 years. Yes. I did not ask you to pay this. No. Then I do not owe you. Dominic's expression shifted slightly. A respectable argument. Claire narrowed her eyes, but incomplete. Her pulse quickened. There it was. The price. Dominic rested his hands loosely in his lap. I chose to answer your message. I chose to come. Those decisions belong to me. Claire waited. But now you require protection, rehabilitation, transportation, and time. I can leave. Yes. Claire looked at him. You would let me. I am not Ethan. The room went quiet. Dominic continued. If you leave today, I arrange an apartment Ethan cannot find. Your medical treatment remains paid. Claire stared at him. Why? Because unfinished work irritates me. That is not an answer. It is the one you are getting. Claire closed the folder. So where is the debt? Dominic looked at her. I have a proposition. Claire's fingers tightened around the paper. Of course you do. You work in freight billing. Her face changed. How do you know that I investigated you? What I needed to know who I brought into my house. This is your house, one of them. Claire stared at him. You investigated me while I was unconscious. Yes. You are insane. I have been called worse. Claire almost threw the folder at him. Then Dominic placed another page on top. It was her resume, her employment history, education, performance reviews, even a report she had submitted 2 years earlier after finding fraudulent billing at her company. Claire looked up slowly. What do you want from me? Dominic's voice remained calm. I have businesses, some legal, some not. Claire let out a breath. At least you are honest. Honesty is cheaper when the other person already knows the answer. He pointed at the file. You see patterns. So I need someone who notices when numbers are lying. Claire stared at him. You want an accountant? No. What is the difference? Accountants tell me what happened. Dominic leaned forward slightly. I want you to tell me who made it happen. Claire's skin went cold. That sounds dangerous. It is. And if I say no, you leave when the doctor clears you. No debt. Dominic looked at her for a long moment. If I force you, the debt becomes mine. Claire could not answer. For the first time since she had woken, she was not sure which part of Dominic Vale frightened her most. His power, his calm, or the fact that he seemed to understand the difference between keeping someone safe and keeping someone captive. Claire looked at the contract beneath the folder. 3 years, salary, housing, medical care, security, a number at the bottom large enough to make her reread it. She lifted her eyes. My sister gets to know I am alive. Dominic nodded. She already does. She gets to see me. Yes, she can come here. Yes, and if I decide I hate this, you tell me. Claire almost laughed. That simple number Dominic stood, but that clear. Claire looked again at the contract, then at the leg beneath the blanket, then at the phone containing 17 missed calls from the life she had nearly lost. Her fingers found the pen. She signed her name. Dominic took the contract. Claire released the pen. So, what happens now? Dominic looked at her for a moment. Then his eyes moved toward the stack of financial files waiting on the table beside the window. You heal. Claire followed his gaze, and after that, Dominic picked up the first ledger. You learn how to read numbers that men are willing to kill over. Claire remembered Dominic's words the next morning. Not because of the numbers, because she could not stand. Sunlight stretched across the floor of the rehabilitation room, pale and cold through the tall windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Beyond the glass, the water looked almost silver. Inside, Claire gripped 2 parallel bars while Dr. Amelia Ross watched from 3 feet away. Weight on the left leg first. Claire swallowed. Her right leg felt less like part of her body and more like a foreign object attached beneath her hip. The scars were still angry. The swelling had gone down, but pain remained. Sometimes sharp, sometimes dull, sometimes deep enough that she could feel it before she opened her eyes in the morning. Amelia nodded toward her foot. Now move the right leg forward. Claire stared at it. Nothing happened. Her brain gave the command. Her body ignored it. Claire, I heard you. Then move. Claire tightened her grip. Her shoulders shook. I am trying. I know. No, you do not. Amelia did not react. Claire looked down at the floor. I used to walk without thinking. Yes. I used to run for the train. Yes. I used to take stairs 2 at a time. Amelia waited. Claire hated that. She hated calm people lately. Calm people made her feel loud. She pulled her right foot forward. 1 inch. Pain climbed through her shin. Claire gasped. Another inch. Her knee trembled. Then her leg collapsed. Amelia caught her around the waist before she hit the floor. Claire grabbed the bar and swore. Again. Claire stared at her. You cannot be serious. I am. I almost fell. You did not. Claire looked toward the door. Dominic stood there. He had probably been watching for several minutes. Dark suit, white shirt, no tie, coffee in one hand. Claire hated him instantly. What? Dominic lifted the cup. I did not say anything. You were thinking something. That seems difficult to prove. Claire turned back to the bars. Get out. Amelia glanced at Dominic. He said nothing. Claire looked over her shoulder. I mean it. Dominic set the coffee on a table. Then he left. No argument, no smile, no reminder that it was his house. The door closed quietly behind him. Claire stared at it. Amelia said again. Claire faced forward. This time she moved 3 inches. The next morning, Dominic knocked before entering. Claire noticed. She pretended not to. Physical therapy became the first war Claire fought without Ethan. There was no one to blame, no one to fear, no one she could bargain with. Pain did not care whether she was polite. Scar tissue did not care whether she apologized. Muscle weakness could not be soothed by saying the right thing. She had to meet it directly. Some mornings she made progress. Some mornings she cried before breakfast. Once, after failing to cross the room without the bars, she threw her cane so hard it struck the wall. I cannot do this. Dominic was sitting near the window reading a folder. He looked up. You just did. Claire laughed bitterly. I took 4 steps. Yesterday you took 3. That is not walking. It is more walking than yesterday. She glared at him. You do not understand what this feels like. No. The answer stopped her. Dominic closed the folder. Claire expected some speech about strength. He gave her none. Instead, he said, "But I know what fear looks like when it starts pretending to be logic." Claire stared at him. "You think I'm afraid I think your leg hurts?" "It does. I think you are tired." "Yes. I think part of you is starting to believe that if you never try hard enough to fail, you never have to discover what you lost." Claire's fingers tightened around the rail. "You really enjoy hearing yourself talk." "Not particularly." "Then stop." Dominic stood. Claire expected him to stay. He left. The next morning she crossed 5 steps. 2 weeks later she crossed the room. A month later the walker was gone. The cane stayed. Claire hated the cane. Dominic never told her to stop using it. That was why she eventually did. By then another part of her rehabilitation had already begun, the numbers. At first Dominic gave her legal accounts, shipping companies, warehouse leases, private security payroll, trucking expenses. Nothing Claire had not seen before, nothing dangerous. She worked from a desk in a room beside the library, her leg elevated on a second chair while she reviewed invoices. On the 3rd day, she found an overpayment to a maintenance contractor. On the 4th, she found 2 drivers receiving fuel reimbursements for trucks that had not moved. On the 6th, she found a payroll employee who had been dead for 11 months. Dominic came into the room just after 7 that evening. Claire turned the laptop toward him. "You are paying a dead man." Dominic glanced at the name. "Thomas Klein. You know him. He worked at South Harbor." "Well, unless he has developed an impressive work ethic after death, someone is collecting his checks." Dominic looked at her. "How much? 58,000 since he died." He pulled out his phone. Claire watched. "Who are you calling payroll?" "That is not what I meant." Dominic paused. Claire looked at the screen. "Is somebody going to get hurt?" His expression became unreadable. "Do you want the honest answer?" "Yes. Possibly." Claire leaned back. The room suddenly felt colder. Dominic lowered the phone. "You can stop." She looked at him. "What?" "You can stop working on these accounts, because I asked a question, because you are starting to understand what they connect to." Claire stared at the name on the screen. Thomas Klein. A dead man. $58,000. Someone had stolen it. In Claire's old office, that would have meant a meeting, an audit, possibly termination. Here, consequences had different shapes. She looked at Dominic. "Call payroll." He did. The next set of ledgers was different. There were no company names, only codes, numbers, dates, ports, amounts. Claire opened the first file and frowned. "This is not accounting." Dominic sat across from her. "No, it looks like accounting." "Yes, but half these entries have no descriptions. That is intentional." Claire scanned another page. "Who is B17, a person? Who you do not need to know. Then how am I supposed to reconcile his payments carefully?" Claire looked up. "You are enjoying this." "No, you are." Dominic's mouth moved slightly. Claire pointed at one column. "What does river mean a location? Which location you do not need to know? What does blue mean an expense category? What kind?" Dominic leaned back. "You ask many questions. I am trying to do the job you gave me. You are trying to understand the entire machine." "Yes. That is not required." Claire met his eyes. "It is if you want me to notice when someone changes a part." For several seconds, Dominic said nothing. Then he reached across the desk and took the ledger. He wrote 3 words beside the codes. River, blue, south. Then he handed it back. Claire read them. Her stomach tightened. Cash collection, police payment, weapons storage. She looked up slowly. "How illegal is this?" Dominic folded his hands. "Would a percentage help? No, then do not ask questions you do not want answered." Claire looked down again. She should have closed the file. Instead, she turned the page. The work became harder. Not because the arithmetic changed, because the people behind the numbers did. Claire learned that Dominic's organization moved money through legitimate freight companies, parking structures, restaurants, property investments, security firms, and a web of companies that existed mostly on paper. She learned that some cash arrived from gambling operations, some from protection arrangements, some from goods that never appeared on official manifests. She learned that one number could mean rent to one person and a warning to another. She also learned Dominic did not trust computers with everything. Certain accounts existed only in handwritten ledgers locked inside a steel cabinet. You are serious. Claire stared at the black book in front of her. Dominic poured coffee. About paper. It cannot be hacked. It can burn. So can people. Claire looked at him. That was cheerful. You asked? Weeks passed. Her leg became stronger. So did her tolerance for Dominic's world. That concerned her. The first time Mason walked into the office carrying a blood-stained shirt, Claire nearly dropped her pen. By the third time, she saw men arrive at midnight speaking quietly about a warehouse problem. She only looked up long enough to make sure no one needed a doctor. She did not know if that meant she was healing. Sometimes she wondered if it meant something else. One evening, she found a payment that did not fit. $27,000 to a company called Dalton Industrial Service. The company appeared 3 times in 2 months. Claire searched the internal records. Nothing. She searched public registration databases. Dalton existed. One owner, no employees, no warehouse. The address belonged to a residential building in Cicero. Claire marked the entry. The next morning, Dominic entered her office. What did you find? She handed him the page. I think this is fake. He looked. What makes you think that no workers, no equipment, residential address? How sure? Claire hesitated. 80%. Dominic picked up the phone. Claire sat straighter. What are you doing freezing the account? Wait, you flagged it. I said 80%. That is enough. It should not be. Dominic looked at her. You either trust your work or you do not. Claire felt heat rise into her face. I trust what I saw. Then why are you afraid of the result? I am not afraid. Dominic's eyes remained on her. Claire looked away. Fine. Dominic froze the account. By afternoon, everything went wrong. Mason came into the office first. He did not sit. We have a problem. Claire felt her stomach drop. Dominic appeared behind him. What? Mason looked at Claire. The Dalton payment was real. Claire froze. Dominic said nothing. Mason continued. It was part of a vehicle purchase routed through a private broker. Claire looked at Dominic. You did not tell me. You were given the account. You gave me incomplete information. Dominic's expression did not change. And you made a decision. No. You made the decision. Based on your analysis. Claire stood too quickly. Pain moved through her leg. She ignored it. You froze almost $30,000 because I said I was 80% sure. Yes, that is reckless. A voice from the doorway interrupted. It is incompetent. Claire turned. Vincent Caruso stood there. He was tall silver at the temples, expensive suit expression carved from contempt. Claire had met him twice. Both times he treated her like furniture. Vincent looked at Dominic. This is what happens when you let civilians touch real money. Claire's face heated. Dominic remained calm. Vincent continued. The vehicle broker will not release the shipment. We lose the trucks, we lose the delivery window. Claire looked at Dominic, waiting. Some part of her expected him to defend her. He did not. He looked at Claire. Fix it. That hurt more than Vincent's insult. Claire stared at him. That is all you are going to say? Yes. Vincent almost smiled. Claire grabbed the file and walked out. She spent 9 hours rebuilding the transaction. Every invoice, every intermediary, every authorization code. The problem was not that Dalton Industrial Service was fake. The problem was that it was real for reasons no one had told her. Claire called the broker herself. He refused to talk. She called again. He hung up. On the third call, she changed tactics. I am not asking you to release the money. Silence. I am asking why the service charge is 8% higher than your last 3 vehicle transactions. The man paused. What? Claire opened another file. You billed Dalton at 12.6%. Previous deals were 4.8, 4.9, and 5.1. That is not your business. It is literally my business. He hung up. Claire smiled. At 2 a.m, she found it. The Dalton payment was legitimate. But the broker had been padding handling fees across 4 different companies for almost 18 months. Total loss, $192,000. Claire printed everything. At 7:30, Dominic entered the office. She was still wearing yesterday's clothes. Her hair was tied back badly. Cold coffee surrounded her. Claire pushed the folder toward him. I was wrong. Dominic opened it. About Dalton. Yes. He read the first page. Claire continued. But Dalton exposed this. Dominic turned another page. His eyes narrowed. She watched him reach the total. 192. Potentially more. I stopped at 18 months. Dominic looked up. How did you find it? Claire leaned back. I stopped trying to prove I was right. Something shifted in his expression. Explain. I assumed Dalton was fake. When it was not, I wanted to defend the assumption. Then I realized that was useless. Dominic glanced down at the file again. So you started over? Yes. And found something larger? Yes. Dominic closed the folder. Good. Claire stared at him. That is it. What would you prefer? I have not slept. I noticed. I made a mistake that could have cost you a shipment. You corrected it after I caused it. Dominic sat across from her. You think I require perfection? Do you not know? Claire laughed. You have an unusual way of showing that. I require correction. She looked at him. Dominic continued. People who cannot admit they are wrong become expensive. Claire folded her arms. And Vincent. What about him? He called me incompetent. Were you? Claire stared. Dominic waited. For about 6 hours. Then he was temporarily correct. Claire wanted to be angry. Instead she laughed. Quietly at first, then harder. Dominic watched her. What, you are terrible at encouragement. I was not encouraging you, I know. Her laughter faded. Dominic stood. Go sleep. Claire looked at the folder. What about the broker? I will handle him. Her stomach tightened again. Dominic noticed. He will remain alive. Claire looked up. You can tell when I am thinking that you are not subtle. That is disappointing. Not to me. He left. Claire stared at the doorway longer than she meant to. Progress did not make the bad days disappear. 3 weeks later, Claire was walking through the west corridor when someone shouted behind her. Stop lying to me! A guard was arguing with another man. The voice was not Ethan's. Claire knew that. Her body did not. The hallway vanished. Suddenly she was back in the apartment. A duffel bag on the floor, a hand around her wrist. You made me angry. Claire dropped the glass she was carrying. It shattered. Her chest locked. She could not breathe. The guard stopped talking. Miss Bennett. Claire backed into the wall. Do not touch me. Nobody was touching her. She knew that too. It did not matter. Footsteps approached. Dominic appeared at the end of the hall. The guards began explaining. He raised one hand. They stopped. Dominic looked at Claire. She could see him, but the room still felt wrong. Too narrow, too loud. He moved closer. Claire flinched. Dominic stopped immediately. He did not touch her. He sat on a chair across the hallway. Claire. She tried to answer. Nothing came out. Dominic looked at the broken glass. Tell me 5 things you can see. Claire frowned. What 5 things? She stared at him. Dominic. 5. Claire breathed through her mouth. The window. Good. The lamp. 3 more. My cane. She had not used it all day, but it was leaning against the wall. The painting. 1 more. Claire looked at him. Your watch. Dominic nodded. 4 things you can feel. Claire closed her eyes. The wall. Keep them open. She did. The wall. My shoes. My sleeve. 1 more. Claire swallowed. My leg. The hallway began returning. Her breathing slowed. Dominic remained where he was. After several minutes, Claire looked at the guards. Leave. They did. She looked back at Dominic. How do you know that he stood? Claire blocked his path with a question. Dominic. He stopped. How do you know how to do that? His face became still. I learned it for someone who needed it. Who Dominic looked past her toward the window. Claire saw something close inside him. Not anger. A door. That is not part of your job. He walked away. Claire watched him until he disappeared around the corner. After that day, Dominic never raised his voice near her. Not once. Neither did Mason. Claire did not ask whether they had discussed it. She did not need to. By early summer, she could walk without the cane for most of the day. Her right leg still stiffened at night. Storms made the old break ache. Long meetings exhausted her, but she stopped hiding the limp. She also stopped asking permission to enter Dominic's office. One Tuesday afternoon, she placed 6 folders on his desk. Dominic glanced at them. What 3%? He looked up. Claire sat. You have a leak. We're Northern Distribution. Dominic opened the first folder. Claire pointed to the columns. The losses are too clean. I do not understand. Exactly 3% almost every month. 3% can be normal variance. Normal variance varies. Dominic looked at the figures. Claire continued. This does not. She slid another page across the desk. Damage claims, another. Fuel adjustments, another. Storage errors. They are spread across categories so no single line looks suspicious. Dominic read silently. Claire watched his face change. How long 20 months? How much? At least 640,000. Dominic looked at her. Who? Mitchell Grant. One of Vincent Caruso's regional managers. Dominic leaned back. Are you sure Claire remembered Dalton? The frozen account? The sleepless night? I checked every assumption twice. Dominic waited. Claire said no. His eyes narrowed. She continued. I am certain. That evening, Mitchell Grant was brought to one of Dominic's warehouses near the river. Claire learned about it when Mason entered her office. Dominic says stay here. Claire closed the ledger. Why? Mason gave her a look. You know why. Claire stood. Her leg was tired. She ignored it. I found the theft, which is why you do not need to see the rest. Claire reached for her coat. Mason moved in front of the door. Claire, no, this is not numbers anymore. I know. You say that now. Claire looked at him. For months, everybody here has been telling me that every number means something. Mason remained still. Claire continued. Money disappears. Someone betrays Dominic. Someone lies. Someone else pays. I keep seeing the first half. You think seeing the second will make you understand it? No. Claire picked up the evidence folder. I think not seeing it lets me pretend I am cleaner than I am. Mason studied her. Finally, he stepped aside. The warehouse smelled like rain oil and cold concrete. Mitchell Grant sat at a metal table. His wrists were free. That surprised Claire. Dominic sat across from him. Vincent stood against the far wall. When Claire entered, Vincent's expression hardened. What is she doing here? Dominic looked at Claire. I told you to stay. You told Mason. That is not an important distinction. It was to me. Dominic stared at her, then at the folder in her hand. Sit. Claire did. Mitchell looked at her. You are the accountant? Claire said nothing. He laughed nervously. This is because of you. Dominic placed a sheet on the table. 20 months. Mitchell shook his head. You are making a mistake. Claire watched his hands. They were trembling. Dominic said, explain the 3%. What 3%? Claire opened the folder. January 2.98. February 3.01. March 2.97. Mitchell looked at her. Normal losses. No. What do you know about distribution enough to know random loss does not repeat to the second decimal place? Vincent shifted. Mitchell looked toward him. Claire noticed. Dominic noticed too. Do not look at Vincent. Mitchell looked back. Dominic's voice remained soft. Look at me. Mitchell swallowed. Claire felt her pulse in her throat. Dominic slid one final page across the table, a list of shell companies. Mitchell's face changed. That was enough. Dominic leaned back. You had a good position. Mitchell said nothing. You were paid well. Silence. Your family was protected. Mitchell looked down. Dominic's voice remained calm. And you stole from me anyway. Mitchell finally spoke. I can pay it back. Claire watched Dominic. He did not smile. This is not about money anymore. Mitchell's breathing changed. Claire understood then. The ledger had moved. Money had been the first line. Trust was the second. Dominic stood. Claire's stomach tightened. She wanted to leave. Her body begged her to leave. She stayed. Dominic did not become theatrical. That made it worse. There was no shouting, no speech, no performance for the men in the room, only consequence. Mason moved Mitchell into the adjoining room. Claire heard a chair scrape. Mitchell began talking quickly. Names, accounts, places, more theft, more people. Claire stared at the table. Dominic remained beside her. You can go. Claire looked up. I know. A sharp cry came through the wall. Her hands went cold. Dominic studied her. Why are you still here? Claire forced herself to breathe. Because I wanted to know. And now, she looked at the closed door. Now I know. Dominic said nothing. Claire stood. Her right leg ached. She took one step, then stopped. Dominic. Yes, is he going to die? Dominic considered the question before answering. No. Claire nodded. She turned to leave. Dominic spoke behind her. Still want to work for me? Claire stopped. She looked back at him. There was blood on no one she could see. No weapon in his hand. Nothing dramatic. Just a man who ruled through debts she was beginning to understand. Claire walked closer. I want to know why you saved me. For the first time that night, Dominic's expression changed, only slightly. But Claire saw it. That he said quietly is a different debt. Claire held his gaze for another second. Then she left the warehouse. He did not follow. For the next several months, she did not ask the question again. She simply kept working. Winter became spring. Spring became summer. By the time Chicago turned cold again, almost a year had passed since Claire Bennett had lain on a kitchen floor with a broken leg and 6% battery on her phone. The scar remained. So did a slight stiffness in her right leg when the weather changed. But the cane was gone. So was the woman who once measured every sentence before speaking. Claire walked through the main office of Vale Logistics on a Monday morning, wearing black trousers, a cream blouse, and a dark coat folded over one arm. Men who had barely acknowledged her months earlier moved out of her path. Not because Dominic was behind her. He was not. Not because Mason had ordered them to. He had not. They moved because everyone in that building now understood one thing. Claire controlled the money, and money had a way of making powerful men polite. She entered the conference room carrying a folder. 6 men sat around the table. Vincent Caruso was among them. He looked older than he had a year ago. Or perhaps Claire had simply stopped looking at him from below. A lieutenant named Raymond Pierce was speaking when she entered. We need access to the Lakeshore Reserve before Friday. Claire took the empty seat near the end of the table. For what Raymond looked at her. Operations. That is not an answer. It is the answer you need. Claire opened the folder. No. Raymond stared. No. He looked toward Dominic. Dominic sat at the head of the table, silent. Raymond shifted in his chair. I was asking Mr. Vale. Claire flipped to the second page. And Mr. Vale hired me so he would not have to answer questions you already know are stupid. The room went still. Mason looked down at the table to hide a smile. Raymond's face darkened. You want to explain that Claire turned the folder toward him. You requested $400,000 for emergency transport equipment. Yes. You made the same request in June. That was different. It was the same equipment. We expanded. No. Raymond leaned forward. Claire continued before he could speak. You sold the June vehicles 3 weeks later through a company owned by your cousin. Raymond stopped. Claire tapped the paper. And now you want me to buy them back. Silence. Dominic finally spoke. Is that true? Raymond looked at Claire. Then Dominic. It is complicated. Claire closed the folder. No, it is expensive. Dominic leaned back. How expensive? About $130,000 if we stop now, and if we do not, closer to $300 by the end of the quarter. Dominic looked at Raymond. Request denied. Raymond pushed his chair back. He did not look at Claire again. When the meeting ended, Dominic remained seated. Claire collected her papers. You enjoyed that? She did not look up. A little. You said his request was stupid. It was. You could have been gentler. Claire finally looked at him. Would you have been no? Then I am learning from management. Dominic smiled. It was brief. She had become better at catching those. Most people thought Dominic Vale never smiled. Claire knew he did. He simply treated expressions the way he treated money. Nothing wasted. She walked toward the door. Claire. She turned. Dominic nodded toward her right leg. You are limping. She looked down. Barely. I am tired. You have been here since 6. So have you. I was not the one with a metal rod in my leg. Claire stared at him. Are you ordering me home, no good? I am informing you that you are stubborn. That seems rich coming from you. Dominic watched her leave. The limp worsened by the time she reached her office. She hated that he noticed. She hated more that part of her liked it. At noon, Mason appeared at her door. Visitor. Claire kept typing. Who your sister? Her hand stopped. Rachel had visited the lake house several times during Claire's recovery, but never Dominic's downtown office. Claire looked up. Here she insisted, that sounds like her. She also told the receptionist that if anyone touched her purse, she would scream. Claire stood. That definitely sounds like her. Rachel waited in the lobby wearing blue scrubs beneath a winter coat. She had come straight from the hospital. When Claire approached, Rachel crossed her arms. This place is ridiculous. Claire looked around. Marble floors, dark glass, security desk. Men wearing suits expensive enough to pay Rachel's rent. You have been here 30 seconds. That was enough. Claire hugged her. Rachel held on longer than necessary, then stepped back and looked at her leg. You are limping. Claire sighed. You and Dominic should start a club. Rachel's eyes narrowed. He notices Claire immediately regretted the sentence. Come on. She led Rachel upstairs. Dominic was in his office. Claire knocked once and entered. Dominic looked up. Rachel stopped beside her. The first time they had met, Rachel had treated Dominic like a bomb with good tailoring. A year had not softened that instinct. Rachel. Dominic stood. Mr. Vale. Dominic is fine. I prefer Mr. Vale. Claire closed her eyes. Dominic nodded. Fair. Rachel looked around the office. No visible weapons, no guards inside, books, financial reports, a framed photograph of Lake Michigan. Everything looked respectable. That seemed to bother her more. Dominic gestured toward the sitting area. Coffee number, tea number. Claire sat. Rachel, what you came here voluntarily. I came to see you, and now you are interrogating the furniture. Rachel looked at Dominic. Fine. She sat across from him, then asked the question Claire knew had been waiting for months. Did you save my sister? Dominic did not hesitate. Yes. Rachel leaned forward. Did you buy her? Claire's stomach tightened. Rachel, no. I want to hear him answer. Dominic's face remained calm. No. Rachel pointed toward the office beyond the glass. She works for you, yes. She lives in a building owned by one of your companies, yes. Your people drive her when she needs security, yes. You paid for her surgery, yes. Rachel looked at Claire. That sounds like ownership from where I am sitting. Claire felt anger rise. Not because Rachel was completely wrong, because Claire had asked herself the same question. Dominic did not defend himself. He looked at Claire instead. That made Rachel notice. Why are you looking at her? Because the answer belongs to her. Rachel turned to Claire. Then answer. Claire took a slow breath. He does not own me. Then why are you still here? The question landed harder than Rachel intended. Claire opened her mouth. Nothing came. Rachel's expression softened. That was worse. Claire, I work here because I am good at it. That is not what I asked, I know. Are you afraid to leave? Number? Claire answered too quickly. Rachel noticed. Dominic noticed too. Claire looked between them. I am not afraid of him. Rachel said quietly, that is also not what I asked. Claire stood. I need some air. She left before either of them could respond. The roof terrace was nearly empty. Cold wind came off the river and pushed against her coat. Claire gripped the railing. Why are you still here? The question should have been easy. Money, safety, work, obligation. Any of those would have made sense. None felt complete. The door opened behind her. Claire did not turn. If that is you, Rachel, I am not discussing my life on a roof. It is not Rachel. Dominic. Of course. Claire kept looking at the city. You could have defended me. From your sister. From the implication. What implication? That I belong to you? Dominic stood beside her. You do not. Claire turned. Then why did you say nothing? Because my opinion is irrelevant. It did not feel irrelevant. Dominic looked at the river. Claire, if I tell your sister you are free, she will think I am manipulating her. She probably will. If I tell her you are not, I become the man she already fears I am. Claire folded her arms. So silence was convenient. No. He looked at her. Silence forced you to answer for yourself. She hated when he was right, mostly because he never celebrated it. Claire looked back at the skyline. I do not know why I am still here. Dominic was quiet. That bothers you, yes. Why? Because I used to stay somewhere for reasons I could not explain. His face hardened slightly. This is not that apartment. I know. Do you? Claire looked at him. Dominic stepped closer, not touching. You have money. Yes. A separate apartment. Yes. A car in your name. Yes. Your sister knows where you are. Yes. The contract has an exit clause. Claire looked away. I know. If you want to leave today, you leave. Her chest tightened. Dominic continued. I will not stop you. Claire studied his face. Would you care? That was the first truly dangerous question she had asked him. Dominic did not answer quickly. Yes. Claire's breath caught. The word was simple. No performance, no explanation, just yes. The terrace door opened. Mason appeared. Sorry. Dominic turned. But Mason looked at Claire first. Then Dominic. Ethan Cole. Everything inside Claire went cold. Dominic's face changed immediately. Where outside her old office, Claire stared at Mason. Would one of our guys still watches the building twice a week? I told you to stop doing that. Dominic ignored the accusation. Did Ethan approach anyone he asked about her? Claire took one step toward Mason. Who receptionist? One of the warehouse staff. Did he threaten them? Dominic looked at Mason. Increase her security. No. Both men looked at Claire. She repeated it. No. Dominic's jaw tightened. This is not negotiable. Claire laughed once. There it is. What the part where my choices matter until you dislike them. Ethan broke your leg. I remember. He is looking for you. Then let him look. Dominic took a step closer. This is not pride. No, it is my life, which he has already tried to destroy. And I am not spending the rest of it hiding because he exists. Dominic stared at her. Claire held his gaze. Finally, Mason cleared his throat. There might be another option. Neither looked at him. Mason continued. Let Claire decide how to handle it. Dominic looked at Mason as though considering whether friendship had finally become inconvenient. Claire said, Thank you. Mason nodded. I am going downstairs before he kills me. He left. Dominic looked at Claire. What are you planning? I do not know yet. That is not comforting. It is not supposed to be. 3 days later, Ethan appeared again. This time, Claire was ready. She stood outside the freight office where she had once worked, hands in the pockets of her coat. The loading yard looked almost exactly the same. Gray sky, wet pavement, trucks moving through the gate. Jason had transferred months earlier. Her old desk belonged to someone else. It felt strange seeing a place that had once been her whole life reduced to windows behind her. Mason waited across the street, out of sight unless she looked for him. Dominic was not there. He hated that. Claire had insisted. A silver sedan pulled to the curb. Ethan stepped out. For a moment, her body remembered before her mind did. Her pulse jumped. Her right leg tightened. She could almost hear the crack again. Then Ethan looked at her, and Claire realized something. He seemed smaller. Not physically. He was the same height, same face, same careful haircut, but the space around him had changed. Or maybe she had. Ethan walked closer. Claire, she did not move. You look good. She said nothing. He stopped a few feet away. I have been trying to find you. I know. His face changed. You know, yes, so you have people watching me now. No. Technically true. Dominic did. Ethan laughed. This is insane. Claire waited. He rubbed his hands together against the cold. I just wanted to talk. We are talking. I mean really talk. No. His jaw tightened. There it was. A movement she knew, small, almost invisible. The beginning of anger. Claire used to respond before it arrived. Lower her voice, soften her face, apologize for things she had not done. This time, she watched it happen. Ethan said, You disappeared. I left. You let those men come into our home. Our home, he ignored that. They threatened me. You broke my leg. His eyes moved toward her right leg. Guilt appeared for half a second. Then, defense replaced it. It was an accident. Claire felt something inside her settle. You grabbed me. You were running. I was leaving. You were emotional. No, you pushed me too. Claire almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because the pattern was so clear now. She could see it like numbers in a ledger. Excuse, deflection, blame, rewrite. Ethan stepped closer. Claire, you think these people care about you? She remained still. You do not know them. I know enough. You know who Dominic Vale is? Yes, he is a criminal. Yes, he kills people. Claire's expression did not change. Ethan stared at her, then laughed in disbelief. You are defending him, no. Then what are you doing? Listening to you try every argument you think might still work. His face hardened. Claire continued, You used to tell me Rachel wanted to control me, Because she did. You told me my coworkers were flirting with me. They were. You told me I was too sensitive. You are. Claire nodded slowly. There it is. What the same world. Ethan frowned. Claire stepped closer. You were always right. Everyone else was dangerous. Everyone else was lying. Everyone else was trying to take me away from you. I loved you. You controlled me. I protected you. You broke my leg because I tried to leave. Ethan's face reddened. You made me angry. Claire went very still. The old sentence, the one that had once held so much power. For a second she was back on the kitchen floor. Then she looked at him. That sentence used to work on me. Ethan's anger faltered. Claire continued. It does not anymore. She turned away. Ethan reached for her arm. He never touched it. Mason appeared between them so quickly Ethan stepped backward. Claire looked at Mason. I am fine. Mason nodded. Ethan stared at him, then at Claire. You brought protection. Claire looked back at Ethan. No. She glanced toward the office entrance. I brought a witness. Then she walked away. Her legs shook before she reached the corner. She did not stop. That night, Dominic was waiting in the library at the lake house. Claire entered and found him standing near the windows. You heard. Mason gave me a report. Of course he did. Dominic looked at her. You should not have been alone with him. I was not. You know what I mean. Claire removed her coat. I handled it. Yes. The answer surprised her. She studied him. That is all no. Dominic walked closer. I wanted to put him in the ground. Claire believed him, but you did not. No, why his gaze held hers. Because you told me not to make decisions about your life without you. Something moved through her chest. Claire looked away. The library was quiet. Firelight shifted across the walls. She remembered the warehouse, the question Dominic had not answered. Why did you save me? He went still. Claire faced him again. You said it was a different debt. Dominic looked toward the fire. For several seconds she thought he would refuse. Then he sat. My sister's name was Julia. Claire did not move. She was 17 when she met him. I was 19. Dominic's voice had changed. Quieter, less controlled. I knew he had a temper. Claire sat across from him. What happened? Nothing at first. He looked at his hands. That was the problem. Claire waited. Dominic continued. She covered for him. Bruises became accidents. Missing classes became illness. Crying became stress. Claire felt her chest tighten. I asked if she needed help. What did she say? She was fine. The words hung between them. Dominic stared into the fire. One night she called me. Claire barely breathed. I was in a meeting. He swallowed once. I looked at the phone. I saw her name. Claire knew before he said it. I did not answer. The room felt colder. I told myself I would call her back in 10 minutes. Dominic looked at Claire. By morning, she was dead. Claire closed her eyes. He continued before she could speak. He had beaten her before. That night, he did not stop. There was no anger in Dominic's voice. That frightened Claire more than anger would have. What happened to him? Dominic looked back at the fire. You do not need that answer. Claire understood. She did not ask. After a long silence, Dominic said, I have answered every late-night call since. Claire looked at him. So when my message came through, I did not know who you were, but you came. Yes. Because of Julia. Because once was enough. Claire finally understood the debt. It was not hers. It never had been. Dominic had been paying it long before she entered his life. Claire reached across the space between them. She placed her hand over his. Dominic looked down at it. He did not move. Neither did she. No kiss, no confession. Nothing that could be named safely. Only silence. But for Claire it felt more intimate than anything Ethan had ever called love. 2 weeks later, she found the first sign of Marco Salazar. It was hidden inside freight loss reports. 3 yards, 3 different companies, 3 separate incidents. Nothing obvious connected them. Claire noticed because each incident happened within 4 minutes of a shift change. She opened maps, insurance files, driver logs, customs reports. At midnight, Dominic found her office lights still on. You need sleep. Claire ignored him. These losses are wrong. Dominic walked in. What losses? She pointed at the screen. South Canal, Cicero, Calumet, different crews. I know. Different cargo, I know. Then Claire opened another file. Same insurance broker. Dominic leaned closer. She opened another. Same customs officer signed the release paperwork. Another. And all 3 companies paid consultation fees to this corporation. Dominic read the name. MS Holdings. Claire nodded. Mason entered as Dominic called him. He looked at the screen. Marco Salazar. Claire looked between them. You know him. Dominic's expression hardened. Yes. Who is he? A man who wants routes I control. Claire looked back at the losses. They are not stealing shipments. Mason frowned. They took almost $1 million in goods. That is not the point. Dominic looked at her. What is Claire pulled up response logs from Dominic's security teams? How long did your men take to reach South Canal? Mason answered. 11 minutes, Cicero 9. Calumet Mason's face changed. 13. Claire turned the monitor. Each loss was small compared to the cargo available at the site. Dominic understood. They could have taken more. Yes, Mason looked at the map. Then why did they not? Claire stared at the 3 locations. Because they were not measuring what they could steal. Dominic's eyes moved toward her. Claire pointed to the response times. They were measuring how fast you move. No one spoke. She looked at the dates, at the locations, at the pattern tightening around Chicago. They are testing the system. Mason straightened. I will increase security. Dominic nodded. Every location. Claire looked at him. And the house. Dominic's gaze shifted to her. The lake house. Yes. Mason studied the map. Claire tapped the screen. People test the edges before they test the center. The room became quiet. Dominic picked up his phone. Orders began moving through the organization. Claire stayed at the desk, staring at the lines connecting one loss to another. By the time Dominic finished his calls, it was nearly 2 in the morning. He found Claire asleep over the files. Her cheek rested against one arm. A pencil was still in her hand. Dominic stood beside her. For a moment he simply watched. Then he removed his coat and placed it over her shoulders. Claire woke immediately. Her hand caught his wrist. Dominic froze. Claire blinked, then released him. Sorry, you were asleep. You were sneaking. I was putting a coat on you. That sounds exactly like what a person sneaking would say. He almost smiled. Claire sat up. They were close. Closer than they usually allowed. She could smell his cologne beneath the faint scent of coffee. Dominic's hand remained on the back of her chair. Claire looked at him. You are very bad at being harmless. I have never claimed to be harmless. Good. His eyes narrowed slightly. Why Claire should have looked away. She did not. Because harmless men do not scare me anymore. Dominic's gaze dropped briefly to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. What does Claire's heartbeat changed? The office seemed suddenly too quiet. She whispered, wanting something I am not sure I should want. Dominic did not move. Neither did she. The distance between them became almost nothing. Then a security alarm sounded through the building. Claire pulled back. Dominic's expression changed instantly. Mason's voice came through the internal speaker. Dominic, we have a problem at the South Yard. Dominic straightened. Claire stood. His coat slipped from her shoulders into her hands. Dominic reached for the phone. Claire looked at the ledgers spread across her desk. On the top page, 3 freight yards remained circled in red. She picked up the file. I am coming with you. Dominic looked at her. Claire was already walking toward the door. I am coming with you. Dominic looked at Claire. She was already moving toward the door. You are not. Claire stopped. Behind them, the security alarm continued to pulse through the office. Mason's voice came over the speaker again. South Yard lost cameras for 90 seconds. 1 guard is down. Dominic reached for his coat. Claire held up the file. This is connected to Salazar. I know. You know because I found it. Dominic stepped closer. And now I am telling you to stay here. Claire stared at him. For almost a year she had watched men change their tone when Dominic entered a room. She had watched arguments die in his presence. She had learned how authority could be carried in stillness. But she had also learned something Dominic had not intended to teach her. Power only worked when the other person accepted it. No. His eyes narrowed. Claire continued. You can tell me the risk. You can tell me what you know. You can tell me what you need. She held his gaze. But you do not get to decide that I become useless every time the room gets dangerous. Mason appeared at the doorway. This is a terrible time for a relationship argument. Claire looked at him. This is not a relationship argument. Mason glanced at Dominic. That somehow makes it worse. Dominic said nothing for several seconds. Then he held out his hand. Claire gave him the file. Fine. Mason blinked. That worked. Dominic looked at Claire. She stays in the command vehicle. Claire opened her mouth. That is the condition. She thought about arguing, then nodded. Fine. They left together. The South Yard sat beside the Chicago River, surrounded by warehouses, rail lines, and long rows of stacked containers. By the time Dominic's convoy reached the main gate, police lights were already reflecting off wet pavement in the distance. Not close. Just close enough to be visible. Mason noticed. They are waiting. Claire looked through the window. For what, to see who survives? Dominic said it without emotion. Claire turned toward him. You think Salazar has police on payroll? I know he does. The SUV stopped. Mason reached for the door. Dominic looked at Claire. You stay here. She lifted both hands. Command vehicle. I remember. His gaze lingered on her face. Claire understood what he was not saying. Be careful. He understood what she was not saying back. You too. Then he stepped out. For the next 40 minutes, Claire sat inside a mobile command van with 3 screens in front of her. Security feeds, shipping maps, personnel locations. She watched Dominic move through the yard with Mason and 6 armed men. They found the injured guard first, alive, then a burned camera unit, then a container left open, nothing inside. Claire frowned. She pulled up the cargo records. What was supposed to be in container C-14? The technician beside her checked. Medical refrigeration units. Claire opened the insurance file. Worth about $120,000. She stared at the screen. Too small. Again, not theft. Measurement. She switched to the traffic cameras outside the yard. One camera had captured a black van leaving 3 minutes before Dominic arrived. Claire enlarged the image. The plate was obscured, but a municipal service sticker remained on the rear window. She called Mason. I found their exit vehicle. Static, then Mason. Send it. She did. Dominic's voice came over the radio. Claire, I am here. How many cameras outside the north gate? She checked. 4 city-owned, 2 private. Any dead zones? Claire pulled up the map. 1. Under the rail bridge. Dominic looked toward the bridge on the live feed. They watched us leave. Claire felt cold move through her. What? He said nothing for 2 seconds. Then call the house. Claire immediately reached for another phone. No answer. She called again. Nothing. Her pulse quickened. Mason, I'm already calling. No response. Claire looked at Dominic on the screen. He was moving toward the SUV before anyone said another word. Claire understood. The South Yard had never been the target. It had been the distraction. The convoy tore north through Chicago. Dominic sat beside Claire in the back seat. No one spoke. Claire called the lake house again. Still nothing. She opened the private security dashboard on her tablet. Several cameras were offline. The gate status showed normal. That meant nothing. If someone had compromised the system, normal could be whatever they wanted it to be. Claire pulled up access logs. Her eyes moved across the entries. One employee badge appeared at 1:46 in the morning. Vincent Caruso. Claire stopped breathing. Dominic noticed. What? She turned the screen. Vincent entered the service wing. Mason looked back from the front seat. He was supposed to be at home. Dominic's face hardened. Claire opened the financial records. A thought struck her. Give me a second. She searched Vincent's accounts. Salary, investments, property. Nothing obvious. Then she checked his nephew's company. A consulting payment. Then another. Then another. 3 payments in 6 months. Claire opened the source. A company registered in Indiana. She traced the ownership. A shell company. Then another. At the bottom of the chain sat MS Holdings, Marco Salazar. Claire looked up. Vincent sold the house. No one reacted dramatically. That was worse. Dominic reached for his phone. Lock every account connected to Caruso. Claire was already doing it. The lake house appeared through the trees. All exterior lights were off. The main gate stood open. Mason slowed. No guard. Dominic opened his door before the vehicle fully stopped. Claire stays in the car. Claire grabbed his sleeve. He looked at her. Do not make me argue with you now. His voice was low, not commanding. Something else. Claire released him. Go. Dominic and Mason moved inside with the security team. Claire stayed in the SUV for 30 seconds, then 1 minute. Then gunfire erupted from the east side of the estate. Claire flinched. The radio exploded with voices. Contact East Corridor, 2 down. Move. Claire stared at the house. Another burst of gunfire. The driver beside her reached for his weapon. Stay here. He opened the door. Claire caught his arm. If you leave, who drives? He looked at her. Good point. The house went dark, not just the lights. The security system disappeared from Claire's tablet. Every camera, every door sensor, everything. She restarted the network. Nothing. Then emergency power came online. 1 camera returned. Kitchen hallway, empty. Then another. Lower corridor. Mason appeared on screen. He fired around a corner. Claire's pulse pounded. A 3rd camera came back. West stairwell. 2 men Claire did not recognize moved upward. She grabbed the radio. Mason, 2 on west stairwell. Copy. The men stopped, turned, moved toward the lower hall. Claire switched cameras. Dominic appeared at the far end of the corridor. One of the attackers fired. Dominic returned fire. The image shook. Then Claire saw his body jerk. He hit the wall. Her blood turned cold. Dominic. No response. Dominic. Mason's voice came through. He is hit. Claire looked at the screen. Dominic was on the floor, blood spreading across his shirt beneath the ribs. Mason was trapped 20 feet away behind a marble column. 1 attacker remained between them. Claire opened the estate map. There was another route, a maintenance corridor behind the kitchen. It connected to the lower hall. Her eyes moved to the emergency medical cabinet icon, then to Dominic. The driver saw her unbuckle. No. Claire opened the door. Ms. Bennett. She stepped out. Claire. She looked back. If he dies because I sat in a car, I will never forgive either of us. Then she ran. Her right leg protested immediately. Pain shot through the old fracture. Claire kept moving. The service entrance was unlocked. She entered the dark kitchen. Gunfire sounded somewhere above. She found the medical cabinet, trauma pack, bandages, pressure dressing. She grabbed everything. The maintenance corridor was narrow and black. Claire moved along the wall. Her breath came fast. Not panic, not yet. At the end of the passage, she heard Mason fire twice. Then silence. Claire eased the door open. Dominic lay 15 feet away. The attacker was down. Mason was moving toward him. Claire ran. Dominic's eyes opened when she reached him. His face changed. You are supposed to be in the car. Claire dropped beside him. So are you. Mason pressed both hands against the wound. Bullet went through. Maybe liver, maybe not. Claire opened the trauma pack. Tell me what to do. Mason looked at her. Pressure here. Claire placed her hands over the dressing. Dominic clenched his jaw. Blood soaked through. Harder. Claire pressed. Dominic's hand closed around her wrist. Claire, not now. You need to leave. No, there are more inside. Then they can wait. Dominic almost laughed. It turned into a cough. Claire looked at Mason. We have to move him. Mason checked the radio. Medical team cannot get through the east wing. Claire looked toward the service corridor. It connects to the garage. Mason nodded. Too narrow for 3. Claire understood. I can take him. Dominic shook his head. No. Claire ignored him. Mason helped Dominic upright. He nearly collapsed. Claire got beneath his right arm. His weight came down on her. Pain ripped through her leg. For a second, the corridor blurred. Dominic noticed. Stop. Claire adjusted her grip. Walk, Claire, walk. They took 1 step, then another. Her right leg shook violently. Dominic tried to pull away. Leave me. Claire laughed breathlessly. You really do not understand your own system. His face was pale. What you saved my life. Another step. Her scar burned. That put me in the red. Dominic's head dipped. Claire, you do not get to die before I balance the account. His eyes found hers. For 1 second, gunfire disappeared. The house disappeared. Everything became still. Then Dominic nodded. They moved, step by step. The leg Ethan had broken carried Dominic Vale through the service corridor and into the garage. By the time the medical team reached them, Claire could barely stand. She released him only when Amelia Ross physically pulled her hands away. "Claire, there is too much blood, I know. Fix it." Amelia looked at her. "I am going to try." "No." Claire grabbed her sleeve. "You fix it." Amelia held her gaze, then nodded once. "We need space." Dominic was taken away. Claire stood in the garage covered in his blood. Mason approached. His face was gray with exhaustion. "Claire." She looked at him. "Who is still inside? 2 attackers alive. 4 dead." Vincent Mason's expression hardened. "Gone." Claire pulled out her phone. Not for long. 14 hours later, Dominic was still unconscious. Claire sat in the conference room at Vale Logistics with dried blood beneath one fingernail she had missed while washing her hands. 3 senior lieutenants sat across from her. Raymond Pierce, Joseph Bell, Anthony Russo. Mason stood near the window. Raymond spoke first. "We need an acting command." Claire looked at the files in front of her. "Yes." Anthony leaned forward. "Mason handles security. I handle operations." Joseph shook his head. "You control Westside operations," Raymond said. "Then I take financial authority?" Claire looked up. "No." All 3 men turned toward her. Raymond frowned. "This is not accounting, Claire." She almost smiled. She had heard that sentence before. "No, it is not." He leaned back. "Then stay out of it." Claire opened the first folder. "Your emergency reserve account is frozen." Raymond's face changed. "What you tried to move $600,000 3 hours after Dominic was shot. I was protecting liquidity. You sent the transfer request to your personal holding company." Raymond went silent. Claire opened another folder. "Joseph, your trucks are being rerouted through Joliet. Salazar knows the Cicero yard." Joseph stared at her. "Who authorized that? I did." "You cannot. They left 40 minutes ago." Claire looked at Anthony. "Your Southside crews stay where they are." Anthony frowned. "Salazar is exposed." "No, Salazar wants us angry. He attacked Dominic, and you want to send every armed man in Chicago toward him while our own house is still compromised." Anthony opened his mouth. Claire continued. "That is exactly what he expects." Silence. Mason watched her carefully. Raymond said, "You are not in charge." Claire placed 3 more folders on the table. "Account 1 is frozen." She pointed at Joseph. "Your trucks are already moving." Then Anthony, "Your men received new orders 20 minutes ago." She folded her hands. "You can keep arguing about who is in charge." Claire looked around the table. "But the decisions have already been made." No one spoke. Mason finally said, "She is right." Raymond looked at him. "She is a civilian." Claire turned toward him. "No." Her voice was quiet. "I used to be." For the next 3 days she slept in Dominic's office. Not because she wanted his chair. She never sat in it. She worked from the conference table beside the windows. Money moved. Assets disappeared before Salazar could reach them. Properties connected to Vincent were frozen. Claire anonymously sent financial records tied to one of Salazar's shell companies to a federal investigator already building a case against his network. Mason negotiated with crews who had been waiting for Dominic to weaken. Claire made sure their payments arrived early. Every hour someone called asking whether Dominic was alive. Claire gave the same answer. "He is unavailable. No more, no less." At 4:17 on the 3rd afternoon, Amelia called. "He is awake." Claire was out of the building before Mason finished asking if she wanted a driver. Dominic looked smaller in the hospital bed. Claire hated that. His skin was pale. A bandage wrapped his abdomen beneath the gown. Machines surrounded him. His eyes opened when she entered. "You look terrible." Claire stopped. "You were shot." "I know. You almost died." "I heard. You were unconscious for 3 days." Dominic watched her. How bad Claire crossed her arms. The bullet missed the liver by less than an inch. "I meant the business." She stared at him. Of course he did. Claire picked up the tablet beside his bed. "Stable." Dominic took it. He scrolled. Stopped. Looked up. "You moved the reserve accounts." "Yes." "You closed Cicero." "Yes." "You froze Raymond Pierce." "Yes." "He will hate that. He already does." Dominic kept scrolling. "You authorized Mason to negotiate with the Northside crews." "Yes." "You sent Salazar's records to the government, anonymously." Dominic looked at her for a long time. "You ran everything." Claire pulled out the chair beside him. You were unavailable. A faint smile appeared. Then pain crossed his face. Claire leaned forward. Do not move, I am breathing, do less of it. Dominic actually laughed, quietly, then winced. Claire sat back. For several seconds, neither spoke. Dominic looked at her hands. You pulled me out, yes. Your leg still attached. Claire, she sighed. It hurts. His jaw tightened. I told you to leave me. I know, you should have. No. You could have been killed. So could you, that is different. Claire stared at him. Do not make me regret saving you by becoming an idiot. His eyes narrowed. Was that my line? It is mine now. Weeks passed before Dominic returned to the lake house. He walked slowly, hated assistance, ignored most of Amelia's instructions. Claire enjoyed reminding him of this every time he criticized her recovery habits. One evening he called her into the study. The original contract lay on the desk. Claire stopped when she saw it. 3 years, her signature at the bottom. Dominic sat behind the desk. You have 18 months remaining. Claire looked at him. I know. He tore the contract in half. Claire stared. Then he tore it again. Your debt is paid. She did not move. Dominic slid a folder toward her. Claire opened it. A bank statement. A sum large enough to make her look twice. Title to a condo in downtown Chicago. A car registered in her name. Medical coverage. Everything independent of Vale companies. She looked up. What is this, your exit? Claire closed the folder. I did not ask for one. No. The familiar answer. Dominic stood carefully. You saved my life, so this is payment no. Then what choice? Claire looked at him. You can leave today. The room went quiet. Do you want me to? Dominic's expression changed. That is irrelevant. It is not to me. I brought you into a world you never asked for. I signed the contract, after waking in my house with a broken leg and no idea what else to do. Claire looked away. Dominic continued. You have money now. Experience. A place no one can take from you. He paused. You owe me nothing. Claire looked at the torn contract. So that is it. You are free. Claire packed the next morning. Mason carried the last bag to the car. He looked uncomfortable. You sure Claire looked at the house? No. Mason nodded. Good answer. Claire almost smiled. Dominic did not come outside. She knew he was upstairs. She could feel the weight of his absence more strongly than if he had been standing beside her. Claire got into the car. The estate disappeared behind the trees. Dominic did not call. Not that day. Not the next. On the third morning, Dominic entered his office downtown and stopped. Claire sat at the conference table. 3 ledgers were open around her. A cup of coffee rested beside her hand. He stared. Claire did not look up. Your quarterly projections are terrible. Dominic closed the door. You left. Yes, you were free. I still am. Now she looked at him. That is why I came back. He said nothing. Claire stood. I spent years staying because I was afraid to leave. She walked toward him. I will never do that again. Another step. If I stay now, it is because I choose the room. Dominic studied her face. And if I become the reason you want to leave, then I walk. He nodded. Claire held his gaze. And you let me. Yes. No hesitation, no argument. Just yes. Something inside Claire finally loosened. She reached up and straightened his tie. You are not very romantic. Dominic looked down at her hand. I had suspicions. You sent me an invoice after saving my life. It was itemized. Claire laughed. Completely. Openly. Dominic watched her as though the sound had surprised him. Then Claire touched his face. He did not move. He waited. That mattered. She closed the distance. The kiss began slowly, careful, almost questioning. Then Dominic's hand settled at her waist. Claire stepped closer. There was no fear in the movement, no calculation, no need to read his expression before deciding what she was allowed to do. When they separated, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. You know this does not erase what I am. Claire looked at him. I am not asking you to become harmless. What are you asking? Do not lie to me. He nodded. Done. And never make a decision about my life without me. Another nod. Done. Claire smiled. Then we can discuss the rest. Months later, Claire sat across from Dominic in a strategy meeting overlooking Chicago. A man from Milwaukee was proposing a distribution partnership. Everyone in the room wanted the deal. The numbers looked clean. Claire read the third page twice, then closed the file. No. The room went silent. The man looked at Dominic. Dominic looked at Claire. Reason. She turned the ledger toward him. Because the numbers say he is lying. Dominic studied the page. Claire pointed at 3 entries. The pattern was small, almost invisible, but it was there. Dominic looked at the man. The meeting ended 5 minutes later. After everyone left, Claire walked onto the balcony. Chicago stretched beneath her. Glass towers, traffic, the dark line of the lake beyond them. Her right leg ached in the cold. She did not hide the limp. Dominic joined her. For a while, neither spoke. Then he asked, "What are you thinking about?" Claire looked at the city lights. "The night I texted you." Dominic leaned against the railing. "You still wish you had gotten the number right." Claire thought about Rachel, the apartment, the kitchen floor, 6% battery, a stranger asking for a name and an address. She looked at Dominic. No. He waited. Claire smiled. Not anymore. Below them, Chicago moved through the darkness. Once Claire believed survival meant keeping Ethan calm. Then she believed it meant escaping him. Then she believed Dominic had saved her. But standing beside him now, she understood the truth more clearly. The wrong number had only opened a door. Claire had been the one who learned how to walk through it.